Hello, EDU 101 people. So today is April 20th, and this is the Tuesday that I'm not going to be in class because of softball. And it is so terrible weather outside. I don't even know if we're having a game. We'll see what happens. I don't know. But regardless, we're not having class this afternoon. And I will send an email out with you telling me this is going to be under the Unit 6 lesson, or, Unit 6 module, just like last week's was. Hopefully you'll be able to find it. So if you're watching this, apparently you already did. Okay, so what we're going to go through is we're going to go through this assignment that's due on Thursday. And I'm going to kind of talk you through it and show you kind of what we expect or what it should kind of look like. Okay, so this is a time that we talked about lesson plans, we talked about unit plans, and we talked about like what are some things you're going to have in your room for like bulletin boards and like the desks and the chairs and like how that's all going to work. And now that we've been through this a couple times, I really want you to think about what is your behavior going to be in the classroom. So I want you to kind of think about this. This does not have to be a long drawn out answer things, but I do want you to think about situations and maybe some tactical things on how you're going to handle some of these situations in your classroom, or how you're going to handle your thinking and teaching in the classroom. So first things first, I'm going to show you Maslow's pyramid, and I know some of you are familiar with this already because it's probably been in psychology classes and it's also been in our ed psych class. So Maslow's hierarchy of needs kind of shows what do children need to be successful in school. So first things children need is going to be like the basics of what they, well, all humans need the basics at the beginning. So you can kind of look through this. This is like a background on him. His name is Abraham Maslow, and he developed this hierarchy of needs, simply saying that if you don't start at the bottom and those bottom needs aren't met, there's no way you're going to be able to get to the top and be successful in school. So step one is the biological and physiological needs. So if a student is hungry or thirsty or cold or hasn't slept or is homeless or does not have those like things they need to survive, like shelter, water, warmth, those things, there's no way on earth you're going to be able to teach him to read because we don't have our basic needs met. The next level up is safety needs. So this means if a child is worried or scared or fearful all the time. So if they're worried about being bullied, or maybe there's like violence at home, or if there's abuse at home, or if there is some bigger things like abandonment issues that the child might be going through, they won't be able to learn. So we have to get our physiological needs met: hungry, thirsty, cold, shelter, water. The next thing is safety. The student has to feel safe. And sometimes this can be on you, and a lot of times this is not on you. So if you're the teacher in the classroom, you have that ability to try and make that space as safe as possible. So when that student is in your classroom, that step is being met, but there's no way you can control anything that goes on outside of your classroom. So sometimes even all the things that you're providing in the classroom isn't enough to get them to that next level. The step 3 of that pyramid is feeling love and being belonged. This could be like a family member, it could be a peer, it could be anything that you're having relationships with a student. So if the student's family is going through a divorce or a death or something, those belongingness and need for love isn't always there. So sometimes, if bullies are happening in the classroom, that child isn't feeling like belong to a friend group or anything like that. So bottom, we have to make sure the physiological needs are met, safety needs, belongingness and love and relationship is the third one. And those bottom 3 are kind of the basis of all humans. We all need to have that to be able to function productively in our world, but especially if we're going to be learning new skills, we have to start at the bottom and work our way up. So the next step is self-esteem. So that means every child is going to have to experience achievement or being success or being responsible or feeling good about who they are, our reputation. This does not always happen in your classrooms, and sometimes the older the students get, the harder it is to get to that self-esteem section, because let's face it, high school is hard. Junior high is hard. Like, there's a whole bunch of hard things about it. And so sometimes that need isn't always met. But you can learn without that need being met, unlike the bottom 3 that are stepping their way up, but you're not going to be as successful. Now, step 5, the top one is self-actualization. This is rare. I mean, this is not going to happen to your kids in your classroom at the elementary age. You know, in Libby, you may have students, if you're doing high school or college, that have gotten to this point. Most people don't get to self-actualization until they are a little bit more mature. They have some life experiences around them. I mean, it doesn't really have to do with age. It has to do with maturity and kind of where they are in the world. So self-actualization is knowing your potential and making a big contribution to the world around you. And so it has this beautiful little pyramid. I'm trying to scroll down here. Is it going to work? There we go. Okay, so, and when I was talking about the stuff at the bottom, so if we start at the top, bottom, you know, and we go straight up the top. So the top two are the ones that don't always happen as often in elementary classrooms, especially not the top one. Now this is from Wikipedia, and I want to show you a couple things on here. They put in there like sex. I don't think that would be what we're talking about in an elementary classroom, or sexual intimacy. And clearly this is for an adult but I wanted to show you that this is actually from Wikipedia, and they're putting that out there. Whatever. So his hierarchy of needs, you're going to see this in different books. You're going to see it in psychology books. You're going to see it in lots of different things. But we want to really focus on that bottom three tiers. Like, what can we do in our classroom to help our students have that good foundation so they can get to the self-esteem and self-actualization later on? Okay, so keeping with all that in your brain, we want to have a classroom that everybody wants to be a part of. We want to have a classroom that people feel their needs are met. So being safe and being part of a group and being belonged and feeling that they're in a place where they can truly grow. So your job is to look at this plan on the bottom, and you can definitely, if you want to download this or print it out or whatever, you can definitely do that and then put that as an upload to the submission, or you can print it out on paper, or you can put it in an email and email it to me, whatever makes you happy, doesn't matter. So what we want to do is thinking about Maslow's hierarchy of need. What can we do in our classroom, or what can you do in your classroom to make sure some of those things are being met? So for instance, here is our compass point. This is kind of where I want you to start and think about demonstrating care. Now this is like a model. This is like an example. So how would you demonstrate care in your classroom? So this is an example of each student is greeted at the doorway as they enter the classroom. Talk with them informally about their interests before, during, and after class. Recognize them away from school grounds and the grocery store, football games, etc. That's one example of how you can show care to a student. Over here, your classroom management plan. How are you going to show care to your students? Do not get long and involved. A couple sentences is all we need. But I want you to think about that. So yes, you can definitely greet them at the doorway and then chat with them and have conversations with them. But I bet there's other ways that you would know, or what you have seen with other teachers do, to demonstrate how they care about a student. So the next one is develop trust. How are you going to develop trust in your classroom? So here's 4 examples, and you can read those. If you want to use those examples as like a jumping off point and then go a little bit further on them, that's completely fine. But then how would you do this? This is going to be your thinking on your classroom management. Teach unconditionally. Sometimes this is hard. So all lessons are presented equally without respect of gender, race, or economic standing. That part's easy. What I think is probably hard is so when a student reveals they lack the foundation information for understanding, take steps to ensure the development of that basic information. How often do we really have teachers go back like, okay, so you don't know what this is all about? Let's go back and do it again just for one student. Sometimes teachers are like, oh, you'll get caught up, or oh, don't worry about it, or oh, you'll be fine, or oh, you don't need to know that part anyway, without truly taking the time, setting up an additional plan with additional help, and making sure that they get that help. So teaching unconditionally, I think sometimes our biases come into the classroom. So I know we talked a lot about this in ed psychology too. Like, if you know yourself and you know yourself as a teacher, you're going to be a little bit more aware of those biases. But if we have not really had that self-reflection and thinking about who we are and how we're teaching in our classroom, maybe gender and race and economic standing does come into that. So we have to make sure that our lesson plans and our homework are equitable. and everybody has what they need before they leave the school, and don't assume that every kid has got a computer or a printer at home, those kind of things. You guys have the college though, so if you did not have a computer and you did not have a printer, you have here to help you out. Not every school has like resources like that. Embrace social media. All right, this one, and if you ever had a chance to check out Miles City District, I think it's called Miles City District School Districts, Unified. No, it's called Unified Miles City. Good Lord, I should probably look that up. Anyway, they have a Facebook page, the Unified School District of Miles City. That's what it is. And they have a Facebook page, and what they do on there sometimes is they celebrate a class. So it's like the second graders at Jefferson. Look at what they're doing today, and they have pictures of them. Of course, you have to have permission with parents and schools to be doing this, but we have to make sure we have like the celebration part. Because our world is social media now. I mean, how often are we on Instagram and you're on your phones, you're checking Facebook and it's Pinterest and, TikTok and, tweeting and the whole thing. It's out there. So if you can do it in a positive way, that you're bringing like some social media into your classroom, how would that affect your students? I mean, would you be getting that belongingness on that tier for Maslow, or would you be more of like, the self-esteem? Would you be getting up to that part of it? Totally up to you. How would you do that? And if you feel like you are not comfortable with that and do not want to do that, just say that. Say, I would not do this because blah, blah, blah. Now, back in the day when I was teaching, like a really long time ago, there was no social media that we could use for access for school. So, we went to the old school emails or the newsletters or like the weekly things we talk to the parents about. But this would just be like the new and improved printed out newsletter. So yeah, how would you do that? How would you in your classroom use social media to help your students go up the pyramid of Maslow's? Okay, using time wisely. Again, how would you do that in your classroom? Please look at these examples. Don't copy them, but use them as like a jumping off point, like I said. Develop sensible routines. Post classroom rules and expectations, inform a curriculum. So just a couple sentences on each one of those, like how would you do this? To be honest, there's no wrong answer. There is no wrong answer because it's you and however you think about this. But, it is a need that you need to think about before you jump into that own classroom of yours. Like, how am I going to handle some of this stuff? The next section of this assignment is something that we've already talked about last Thursday in class, and that is when we have this chart right here. So all you need to do is, first of all, choose 3 Montana schools. They're all right here. What salary will you receive at each of them? It's right on here. Like when we're talking about salary, we're talking about like beginning salary. And then what is your career earning potential in each district? Like how much money can you make? And then what is the highest level of education you can get paid for in that district? And just put that also on a Word doc, Google Doc, email, however you want to turn it in. We do have text box entry or an upload file for submission on this, so you can either upload it to Canvas or however else you want to do it. I'm completely fine with. Both of these assignments are due on Thursday, the 22nd. And I just want to, throw it out there that this week we've got Thursday, the 22nd. Next week we have Tuesday, Thursday, and then we're done. So that's not that many more times. So we really only have, after today, we only have 3 more days that we're going to be meeting. We're meeting Thursday the 22nd, and then next week the 27th, and then next week the 29th. And that's all we'll be meeting. So the week of finals, we will not have a final class time. It's just for you to work on that, your philosophy of education. Okay, I feel like I went that super fast. So I suppose if you really didn't catch it, you can just go rewind me. Or maybe you've been fast forwarding me this whole time. I don't know. Your choice. So those 2 assignments are due kind of together in one group, and it is going to be found on the nuts and bolts part of Unit 6. We'll see if mine goes back here. Maybe. There we go. So it is going to be right here. And this part right here, the muddy and clear, all you're going to say is like, do you understand stuff, or what do you still have questions about for unit planning, and what are you pretty clear about for unit planning?